Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Teresa Houston, and I'm the Chief of U.S. Programs here at Spangdahlem, and we are so fortunate today to have with us one of our benefits and entitlements teammates, Miss Leanne Stewart, who will be briefing us today on Benefits 101, specifically related to the retirement systems and other retirement-related programs. So we're in for a treat. We've got a full afternoon. She's got a full training briefing for us, so we're not going to prolong. We're going to turn the mic over to her and let her get started. So we're going to just wish her a big Spangdahlem welcome to Ms. Stewart, and we're going to turn the mic over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Leanne Stewart. It looks like I'm appearing on the phone as James Stewart, so please disregard that. It's my cell phone number. I'm dialing in for the microphone portion of this. I'm Leanne Stewart. I'm a human resources specialist with the Department of the Air Force, and I work at Air Force Personnel Center in Benefits and Retirement. Benefits and Entitlements as a retirement counselor and benefits counselor. So welcome to Benefits 101. Throughout this briefing, you'll be provided with an overview of BEST, a snapshot into our program areas, and the many systems that we use. So we have a lot of information. We'll go ahead and get started. I would ask that people to go ahead and you can write your questions in the chat, but hold off because we're going to hold off just asking them. We're going to provide specific breaks and times to ask questions as we go over each section. And then we'll also have a question and answer session at the end of the briefing. And there will be breaks throughout the briefing. We're not going to go straight through this. Okay, this is our agenda. So we're going to cover who is BEST, Benefits and Entitlement Service Team. We're going to go over the retirement systems, federal employee benefits, including health benefits, life insurance, another savings plan. We're going to cover some general information and benefits reminders, and then if we have time, it says retirement counseling. That's the question and answer session. If you're planning on retiring, that's where we're going to go ahead and do some question and answer for everybody. Okay, so let's start with benefits and entitlements. So the Benefits and Entitlement Service Team is comprised of 78 employees, and we service all of the Department of the Air Force's 149,000 civilian employees worldwide. Our daily production actions include, but are not limited to, retirement estimates, certified summaries, health benefits, life insurance, TSP actions, civilian deposits, redeposits, and military deposits, benefits-related pay issues, and retirement and benefit counseling. This pretty much covers only the functions of our operations floor. It doesn't even begin to cover our specialty teams, such as our technical team or our special retirement team. We are a production-based office, so our office strives to meet production requirements and balance that with quality as well as quantity. These are our 2020 numbers for the year. You can see that it looks like we actually went down in the fourth quarter, but it felt like we spiked because we had so many retirements come in at that end of year retirement time. And we were working very diligently to get all those retirements processed in a timely manner. Okay, so now let's go into the retirement system itself. Slide 4. Okay, there we go. There's a retirement overview slide. Okay, so now we're going to cover, we're going to go over the retirement systems and programs, the retirement process, and our internal agency procedures for Department of the Air Force. And then we're also going to discuss a little bit about retirement applications and the requirements. And a lot has changed this past year due to the coronavirus. A lot has changed. Okay. So the Civil Service Retirement System, the Civil Service Retirement Act, which became effective on August 1st of 1920, established the retirement system for federal employees. At that time, in 1920, no other retirement system for employees existed anywhere in the United States or in the nation, making the Civil Service Retirement System the oldest retirement system in America. CSRS is a defined benefit contributory retirement system, and the employees covered contribute 7% or 7.5% for employees under special retirement provisions. Employing agencies match the employees' contributions. Generally, CSRS employees do not pay into the Social Security retirement survivor and disability tax. And of course, there's also a voluntary contribution program that the VCP, Voluntary Contribution Program, allows CSRS employees to contribute after-tax money to a special account where they earn interest at a rate fixed each year by the Department of the Treasury, and they're allowed to increase, to contribute up to 10% of their basic pay for creditable service to that voluntary contribution account. CSRS employees may contribute to the thrift savings plan, but they do not receive agency matching contributions. Okay, so CSRS is the first and oldest retirement coverage in America. CSRS offset is a version of CSRS that incorporates Social Security taxes. It became effective on January 1st of 1987, and it was established for CSR employees who had a break in service but were eligible to keep their CSRS retirement coverage and came back to the federal retirement or to federal civilian service and are eligible to keep that CSRS offset, but then became subject to Social Security, the Social Security Act of 1983. So that, because of that break in service, it covers employees hired prior to January 1st of 1984 who had at least 5 years of potentially creditable service, but experienced a break of service, like I said, of 365 days or more, or they did not obtain federal retirement coverage until on or after January 1st of 1987. Then they receive the full CSRS retirement benefits until they become eligible for Social Security. At that time, your CSRS annuity is then offset and reduced by the portion of Social Security benefit received for the period of time covered by the CSRS offset portion of your retirement coverage. So essentially, it's the same amount of money, but you're receiving it from two different agencies now, one from Department of the Air Force or OPM, the other from Social Security Administration. Okay, so for deposits and redeposits, creditable civilian service is service that may be counted towards establishing eligibility for a federal benefit towards retirement. So credit may be given for all service performed as an employee of the federal government. So what a civilian deposit is if credible civilian service in which an employee was working for the federal civilian service, but they were not covered by a retirement system. So if you worked at any point and the only thing you see on your SF-50 is FICA for Federal Insurance Contributions Act, number 2 in block 30 on the SF-50, or it was different the further back in time you go for the block numbers, but it's FICA. If you work for the Federal Civilian Service and you did not contribute to the retirement system itself, you only contributed to FICA, which is Social Security tax, then that time on or before October 1st of 1982 is creditable towards retirement. So there's a period in which you were not paying into the retirement system and you're eligible to buy it back, or you can simply, for CSRS employees, it's eligible, all creditable towards retirement. For civilian redeposits, that is where you worked for the civilian service and you decided you were going to leave and you're not going to come back to the federal civilian service, and you decided to take a refund of your contributions. So a redeposit is the repayment of the refund for those retirement deductions that were previously held, plus that interest on that time for that service. It's treated differently depending on whether the employee took a break, refund before March 1st of 1991 or on and after March 1st of 1991. And there's different rules that are applied. If you specifically think you fall into this category, we can always answer questions after this at one of our scheduled breaks, and then I'll go into questions. But there's different rules for refunds, and then there's rules for civilian deposits. And of course, depending on when the break-in service happened or when the non-deduction service happened where you weren't paying into the retirement system, potentially it's all creditable for retirement. So there is no requirement. If you have potentially, this is all called potentially creditable service. If you have this potentially creditable service, it is potentially creditable for retirement. Service credit may be received, and you're not required to make a deposit or a redeposit to have it become creditable. However, not paying a redeposit or the deposit could negatively impact your annuity, the amount of money you make in retirement, if these potentially creditable service deposits are not paid or repaid. I hope I didn't confuse anybody there. I was trying to go at where we could all understand it and make sure that my words were clear when we're talking about civilian deposits and redeposits. Military deposits. So for military deposits, military is considered potentially creditable service as well, and the rules are different for CSRS than they are for FERS. You may receive credit towards your civilian retirement for a creditable active duty military service by completing a military deposit. Military deposits for creditable active duty service performed after 1956 is 7% of your base pay. If you fall under USERA, the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Act of 1994, it is based on either the military earnings or the civilian salary that the employee would have received, whichever is less. So those are both computed and compared, and whichever is less is generally what you would pay the percentage of. Interest on the deposits do include interest unless they are completed within this free grace period. The grace period is the first 3 years from your hire date, or return to duty date if you're USERA. If you left and came back, it's the return to duty date. So if you pay it in those first 3 years, there's no interest on that military service deposit payment. It is treated differently for employees that were hired before October 1st of 1982, and for employees who were hired on or after October 1st of 1982. To receive credit for creditable active duty military service, the deposit, it has to be paid prior to the effective date of separation, including separation for retirement. If it's not paid by retirement, the effective date, then there is no credit given for that military deposit. If you've made partial payments but did not complete the deposit by the time of the effective date of separation, you're going to receive a refund on that deposit, and you're not going to receive credit for that military time. So it's very important to go ahead and pay your military deposit if you have any intention of paying it, to pay it in full prior to the date of separation. Okay, CSRS military retired pay. If you are retired military and you have no intention of combining your military time with your civilian time, you can ignore this slide. This slide is not applicable for you. If you are retired military and you're combining your military time and your civilian time and you're making that military deposit, then unless your military retired pay was awarded, and this I'm going to read verbatim because this is very specific. Like, this has to be worded like this in a memorandum as part of the retirement from your agency or from your branch of service that awarded you that retirement. So it has to be awarded either on an account of a service-connected disability, either incurred in combat with an enemy of the United States, or caused by an instrumentality of war and incurred in the line of duty during a period of war. That statement, it has to be on those actual orders or in a memorandum from your branch of service. A lot of people get this confused with the disability retirement. There's a lot of military members that have disability retirement. Disability retirement is not what we're talking about. It has to have that exact verbiage in the memorandum from your branch of service in order for you to be eligible to keep your retirement pay and not have to waive it and combine your military time with your civilian time in going into retirement in order to not waive it. The other provision in which you do not have to waive your retirement in order and still get to combine your military time with your civilian time is if you're part of the reserve. So that chapter 1223 Title 10, that's the reserve retirement. If you accrue enough points on the reserve side to receive a full active retirement, for active duty retirement, you will no longer fall under those provisions, and you will again have to waive your military retired pay when it comes time for retirement. So with the reserve pay, you do not have to waive it. You receive it when you turn age 60, and therefore there is no waiving it, and that's the other provision that you're entitled to. So what happens is if you intend to combine your full 20 plus years of active duty retirement with your civilian service, you go ahead and make the deposit, and the deposit does have to be paid in full prior to the date of the effective separation. And then when you go to retire, you still receive your military retired paycheck the whole time you're civilian service. But when you go to retire is when you submit with your retirement packet the waiver letter saying you want to retire, you want to waive your military retired pay in lieu of receiving your civilian retirement paycheck. That's when you submit that. So it's waived upon retirement. It's not waived as soon as you make that decision. Okay, for the annuity computation, CSRS annuities, basic annuity is computed based on the length of service and the high 3 average salary. So we're gonna discuss what high 3 average salary actually is, because a lot of people think it's just your highest salary divided by 3. That's not really it. So what your basic annuity is, you'll receive credit for any unused sick leave, and if you're retiring on immediate retirement. However, it is not used to meet eligibility. So if you're retiring at an MRA, minimum retirement age, and you're for CSRS, that's 55, age 55, you have to have 30 years of service in order to retire at that age, which by this time most CSRS employees would and do. So your sick leave cannot be used, and this is actually the same for federal FERS covered employees. Your sick leave cannot be used to get you to the 30 years. You have to have 30 years, and then your sick leave is going to enhance it. So even if you have 8 months worth of sick leave that's credible for retirement, it cannot be 29 years and 2 months of federal, or 29 years and 4 months of federal civilian service, and then you're using the 8 months of sick leave to get you to your 30 years. You have to have your 30 years as a federal civilian or creditable service without that sick leave. Then your high 3 average salary is your highest earned basic pay during any 3 consecutive years. It does not include overtime, bonuses. There's that overseas COLA, it's not included. So there's a lot of things that are not included. Here we go. Bonuses, allowances, holiday pay, overtime, or military pay. None of that is included in your high 3 average salary. What is included is your base pay, your locality pay, night differentials for wage grade employees, or environmental differential pay. For the formula itself, for your first 5 years of service, you receive 1.5% of your high 3 average salary. Then for your second 5 years of service, you receive 1.75% of your high 3 average salary. Anything for 10 years and over, it's 2% of your high 3 average salary. The maximum amount you can receive as a CSRS covered employee is 80%, and that is if you reach a total of 41 years and 11 months of service. If you go over 41 years and 11 months, you will essentially be receiving a refund for any additional monies that you contributed to your CSRS retirement fund. So this is what the high 3 average salary looks like, and we break this down for you because a lot of people think it's just the 3 years or the high 3 average salary times 3 divided by 3, which that's not how it works. So for benefits and entitlements, we obtain your salary information from your SF50s during the consecutive 3 years of the period where you earned the highest amount of pay. OPM obtains your salary information from your individual retirement records provided by DFAS, and we at Benefits and Entitlements do not have access to your IRR cards. Excuse me. Give me 1 second. My dogs are being a little loud. We're teleworking right now. Anyway, so Benefits and Entitlements doesn't have access to your IRR card. So how we calculate your high three is from your start and end dates from your highest 3 consecutive years of salary using the dates from the SF50s. So if you look at the slide, you'll see in the yellow at the bottom left-hand side, the start and end dates. So on the slide itself, it has salary starting date 2/1/2017, so February 1st, 2017, and salary ending date September 30th, 2017. So we have to go through your entire pay history and your pay records and your SF50s, and we do start and end dates for the highest 3 years that you earn, or for the 3 consecutive years that you earn the highest amount of salary for the federal civilian service. For most employees, it's their last 3 years. It does not have to be your last 3 years. If you move from somewhere where locality was much, much higher, like, I don't know, San Diego, California, and you move to San Antonio, Texas, it's probably going to be higher in San Diego that you earn your money. So we go through and we do starting and ending dates, and then we do actual pay earned based on an 80-hour biweekly rate of biweekly tour of duty. And you can see that from February 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2017, this person earned $83,804, even though the basic pay was $125,706. They didn't earn $125,706 because they got a promotion or a within grade increase or whatever happened here on October 1st. We go by actual amount earned from start date to finish date based on an 80-hour biweekly tour of duty. And then we go down to October 1st to January 6th, 2018, and it's $35,000. So it seems like a lot less money, but its actual earned pay went down. Then we go from January 7th, 2018 to January 5th, 2019. That's the general adjustment, 136. So you got $135,694. Then the general adjustment happened again for 2019. You see January 6th, 2019 to January 4th, 2020, and it goes to 143. And then January 5th, 2020 to January 31st, 2020, it looks like that's when this person might be retiring, January 31st, 2020. So that pay earned for just that 1 month, and it's actually less than a month, is $10,359. So we take the pay earned column for the actual pay earned. That is what we add up to get our number that we divide by 3. This method is called the time-weighted method. So we're not taking just your high 3 average salary or your overall highest pay you've ever earned. We're not starting off with that. For this person, it's $143,426 at the bottom. We're not dividing that by 3 or doing that times 3 and then divided by 3. We're actually doing the time weighted for the highest 3 consecutive years. Then we add up all that pay earned money in that far right-hand column in blue, and then with adding all of that, we get the $408,417, and we divide that by 3, and you can see the calculation in the green up at the kind of in the top right section, and then that is how we get $136,139, and that is the high 3. If you have questions on that, I promise I will take your questions in this break that it's about to come up. But it will be right there. And then of course, feel free to write any questions you might have in chat. The high 3 average salary for CSRS is also the same for FERS employees. So this is where different retirement coverages have different requirements. For CSRS, for regular retirement, CSRS employees can retire at age 55 with 30 years of service, age 60 with 20 years of service, and age 62 with 5 years of service. If you are a special retirement, generally you're a special retirement system. The special retirement systems usually include law enforcement officers, firefighters, air traffic controllers, and military reserve technicians. Early retirements, those are not offered by Benefits and Entitlements or Department of the Air Force. It is offered by your local base. If just because you can do 25 years in any age or 20 years in age 50, that does not mean that you're eligible for that unless the base specifically offers it to you. So that is not a Department of the Air Force thing. That is a base thing. Usually it happens when base is closed, we do a reduction of force, anything like that. It's not, everybody cannot just go out on an early retirement. There are provisions and laws when it comes to early retirement. So while that is the age and service requirements to be eligible, there's also additional requirements legally in order to be eligible for early retirement. So majority of CSRS employees fall under the regular retirement rules, unless they're in a special job, air traffic controller, law enforcement officer, firefighter, military reserve technician, or the base has offered you an early retirement. The other option for CSRS covered employees, say you reach age 50, you've done, I don't know, 20 years of service, but you're still not at 55 and you just, I don't know, maybe you're offered a higher paying position in the civilian sector and you decide you want to take it. So you separate from federal civilian service. Instead of taking a refund of all that money, all those retirement contributions, you can choose to wait until you reach age 62 and defer your retirement. When you do that, it is considered a regular separation of employment. You are not actually retiring at this time. There is no retirement paperwork submitted. You just separate. When you reach the age where you're eligible to take that deferred retirement at age 62, you apply for retirement directly to OPM. OPM will have all of their information on their website, and then you can also request from Benefits and Entitlements through the MyFERS app or through the GRB platform. You can request retirement counseling specifically on deferred retirement if you would like additional information. Majority of people do not do deferred retirement, but there are some that, you know, they just either they want to stop working or, you know, life occurs. They have family things happen. I'm sure with the coronavirus, a lot of issues came up this past year, and they just decided working just wasn't an option for them anymore, or they had something better lined up, maybe some health issues or whatever. So they chose to separate from federal civilian service, and they wanted to defer their retirement. That is one of the options for that. So for survivor annuity for CSRS covered employees, survivor benefits are payable to an eligible spouse under CSRS and the FERS retirement system upon death of an annuitant. For CSRS employees, they may elect to leave a survivor annuity to their spouse at the time of retirement. It is part of the retirement application, which is why we discuss it here. You may elect to leave your spouse full survivor annuity, partial survivor annuity, or nothing. For full survivor annuity, if you choose to leave your spouse the full amount, it's 55% of your actual annual annuity. Partial survivor annuity is 55% of a stated dollar amount. So that's, and it sounds like the same, but it's not. So for example, if an employee retires and states that they want to leave their spouse a partial annuity and they put down $10,000, then the spouse will receive 55% of that $10,000, which is $5,500 a year. If you're receiving CSRS, you know, I've not necessarily seen this, but if you're receiving $100,000 a year and you leave your spouse this full survivor annuity, that means if something happens to you, your spouse will receive $55,000 a year instead of if you do the partial where it's a stated dollar amount. The survivor election is made at the time of retirement. If you are married at the time of retirement and you choose not to leave your spouse the full amount, or if you choose not to leave your spouse anything, they lose their FEHB. So if something happens to you and you have left your spouse nothing, they lose FEHB. If something happens to you and you choose to leave your spouse less than the full amount, then or nothing, then there is a required signed notarization agreement. You do not sign it as the employee. Your spouse has to sign it in front of a notary, reflecting that you have elected not to leave them either the full amount or have elected not to leave them anything. If you were divorced, survivor benefits will be apportioned in accordance with the divorce decree. If you are remarried after retirement, you have 2 years to elect a survivor benefit. And this is not a typo. Premiums must be paid back to the start of the retirement effective date. So yes, if you remarry or you're not married going into retirement and then you get married going after you're retired, you have 2 years to elect a survivor benefit, and then you have to pay the premiums all the way back to the retirement effective date. Under CSRS, there are 3 choices for survivor annuity. There's full, partial, and then no survivor annuity. And then a partial annuity is the minimum base election that you're eligible to elect, and your spouse will get to continue to keep their FEHB at that time. Okay, so for annuity withholdings. So potential annuity reductions and deductions. This is stuff that gets withheld from your annuity, from your money when you go into retirement. One of the potential reductions is if you retire early. Generally, for CSRS, you're not going to retire early. It's usually only for the special retirements or if you're retiring under a disability. There is an early age retirement, and it's permanent for 2% for each year under the age of 55, and it applies to CSRS annuities or FERS annuities with a CSRS component. If a deposit is not made for the service performed prior to October 1st, 1982, with deductions were not held, then there's an actuarial deduction from your retirement. So we're talking about civilian deposits where you had potentially creditable service, but you weren't paying into the retirement system. That's what we're talking about, that FICA time. And then the redeposit is where you worked and you took a refund of your money. That's that redeposit is made for a refund. So if you choose not to make the redeposit for that refunded time, then there's a deduction for that as well. And if a survivor benefit is elected, then that's going to be reduce your overall amount from your annuity. Withholdings that are, for the most part, automatic unless you choose to waive them. The only exception to that one is state taxes. Federal income taxes. Federal income taxes are automatic in retirement. The W-4P is an IRS form. It changes every year. That has the year on the actual form. And OPMs withhold that at the rate you establish using that form. If you choose not to submit a W-4P form with your retirement packet, what's going to happen is OPM is going to automatically withhold your retirement or your federal income taxes at the rate of married with claiming 3 dependents. If you have no dependents, or maybe you're not married and it's just you, that is potentially going to affect your taxes when it comes time to do your annual taxes every year. When we start that, was February through April, and this year I guess this has been extended to June. That could potentially make it to where you will be paying into taxes if you don't submit that form. State income taxes are not automatic. OPM has agreements with some states to withhold the state income tax, and you're going to need to get with OPM and coordinate that with them directly. Health insurance premiums are the same as active employee, but it changes from biweekly to monthly after retirement. And of course, in order to carry health insurance into retirement, you have to have had it for the 5 years immediately preceding the retirement effective date. There cannot be any breaks of coverage. Same for life insurance, 5 years immediately preceding the retirement effective date. And then the life insurance premiums are based on the amount of coverage elected to continue into retirement. There are so many options for life insurance depending on what you have. OPM has a calculator for that. It's called a FEGLI calculator on OPM, and I can provide some of that for you guys after the briefing is over, or in a follow-up email to Ms. Dunster, however we want to coordinate that. All right, this is where I scheduled for us to have a question and answer session, and then depending on how long the questions go, we'll have a little mini break. So at this time, y'all are welcome to ask your questions. I see that there is one in the chat box already. Miss Houston or Miss Dunster, do y'all want to? Are there any other, like, how do we want to work on do the questions?
Or if you want, I can read them to you and you can answer, unless you can see them in
Okay.
the. The first question is, does the spouse need to approve the acceptance of a partial?
Yes. So anything less than the full survivor benefit will require it's called a spouse's consent form. For CSRS, it's a standard form 2801-1, I believe. -2. 2801-2, and it's part of the entire packet. So if you go to the opm.gov website and download the standard form 2801, that is going to have like 14 pages or so, and one of those pages is going to be the spouse's consent form. It's going to be a required form if it's anything less than full. Now, if you elect a full survivor annuity, then you do not have to fill that form out. But if you're married, or not married, if you're single going into retirement, if you're not married, then you put no survivor annuity, and then there's no spouse's consent form required at that point. But anything less than full, it will require the spouse's consent form. So I think I can see some of these. At what point in my civilian service do I have to make the election on whether I want to add my military time to my civilian time for retirement purposes? So I'm not sure. So Mr. Jones or Mrs. Jones, I apologize. I can't tell from reading the name on this. So when you choose to combine your military time with your civilian time, I'm going to say the sooner the better, because the longer you wait, the more interest is going to accrue to that deposit amount. Anything within that first 3 years, remember we talked about the grace period, you get those first 3 years to pay it all off. Anything after those first 3 years, interest begins accruing. I myself am paying my own military deposit, and I did not do it in the first 3 years. I am paying interest on my military deposit. That being said, if you're concerned because you're like, man, I don't know if I really want to do this. I don't know if it's going to be worth it for me to combine my military time and my civilian time and combine those paychecks in order to add all that time to my civilian retirement. Well, you can always request a retirement estimate and get that compared first. So you can request a retirement estimate, and if you haven't paid it yet, our office will show you how much it is without the military deposit paid and with the military deposit paid. So you can make that decision, a better and more informed decision about that. The other thing is at the time of retirement, if you choose that this is not going to work out, or I think I'm going to make more from my military retirement if I don't combine this money than if I did, you can make the deposit, pay it completely, and then choose to submit the waiver form to request request a refund form. So you can actually refund all that money when at the time of retirement. Generally, if you pay it in full, you cannot get the money prior to retirement. So if you make that payment and you got like 15 years to go until retirement, you have to wait those 15 years when you retire in order to get that refund back. But if you make that payment and everything works out, then you've made the payment and it's paid in full, and you've probably paid a lot less on interest than you would have paid. Okay, and then I see Spencer, the last name Spencer. I believe it was stated at the bottom of the slide. However, can you reiterate what the minimum survivor benefit is needed to be elected so the spouses keep FEHB upon death? Yes. So in order for them to have for the minimum and spouses to keep their health insurance if something should happen to you and you're the primary health insurance provider in your family, you have to at least elect partial. Anything less than, if you elect no survivor benefit, then they lose their health insurance should something happen to you. Okay, is there anything else before we move on? Did we want to take a mini break, 5 minutes? CSRS is kind of it's a decent lengthy portion on its own. So, and then I was going to move into the FERS, and then that's a lengthy, it's basically the same amount of time or the same length of the portion of the briefing. Okay. If I declined my survivor benefits program for your military, can I still elect to take it on your civilian? So, your military retirement is completely separate than your civilian. What you do on that does not impact your civilian retirement. So the answer to that question is yes, you can take it on your civilian retirement, and your whatever you chose, decline it, accept it. If you want 2 survivor benefit programs for retirement for your spouse, neither one impact each other. They are completely separate from each other. Okay, so let me go ahead and begin with the next retirement system we have up is FERS, Federal Employees Retirement System. So a larger portion of our Department of the Air Force civilian sector is now being covered by FERS. The Social Security Act of 1983 mandated that all federal employees hired after December 31st of 1983 must pay into Social Security taxes. FERS was enacted in 1987 and covers employees first hired in a retirement covered position on or after January 1st of 1984 and before January 1st of 2013. It is a 3-tiered system that includes Social Security and the Thrift Savings Plan. So the first tier is your FERS annuity, the second tier is Social Security, and the third tier is your TSP. Employees contribute 0.8% of their base salary to FERS and 6.2% of their salary to Social Security. If a CSRS covered employee were ever to elect to be covered by FERS, they can never go back to being covered by CSRS. Once FERS, always FERS. Okay, so I just said that they're only covered until January 1st of 2013. That is because that is when the FERS revised annuity employee, RAY, an extension of the FERS retirement coverage, came into effect. So employees receiving an appointment not excluded from FERS coverage on or after January 1st of 2013 were placed into FERS RAY. FERS RAY employees pay 3.1% of their base pay to the FERS retirement system, and they still pay that 6.2% to Social Security. If they were previously covered under the regular FERS, CSRS or CSRS offset retirement systems, they are excluded from FERS RAY. And then on January 1st of 2014, the further revised annuity employees retirement system is another extension of FERS that employees hired on or after January 1st of 2014, not excluded from FERS, were placed in FERS FRAY. Employees under FERS FRAY pay 4.4% of their base pay. And then air traffic controllers, firefighters, and LEOs pay 4.9% of their base pay to the retirement fund. And a break in FERS coverage of 3 days or less is not considered a break in service to the individual, and the individual will retain FERS. So if you had FERS and you had FERS through December 31st into January 1st, then you get to retain your FERS retirement coverage. But if you were never employed prior to FERS RAY or FRAY, then essentially employees coming first hired. So it's for newly appointed employees for this time frame only that are covered by these retirement systems. Okay, we've discussed civilian deposits and what they mean, as well as redeposits before in our CSRS section. So if you were not paying into a retirement system, but you were a federal civilian employee only paying into FICA, that Social Security tax, then payments for retirement deductions, you're eligible to buy that time back only if the service was performed before January 1st of 1989. So anything prior, so December 31st, 1988 and prior is the only service eligible for civilian deposit payments for potentially creditable service for FERS. If it was on or after January 1st of 1989, no FICA service on or after January 1st of 1989 is credible for FERS deposit under any circumstance. For civilian redeposits, all redeposits are eligible for, all refunds are eligible for redeposits under FERS. So if you've ever taken that refund of your retirement deductions, you're always eligible to pay it back. The redeposit, if you choose not to pay it, it is always creditable for time. So eligibility is time, but it will be make it to where you will have a deduction or a reduction from your annuity computation if you choose not to pay it back. So it gives you credit for time, but you don't get credit for the money portion of that. Of course, you must pay the redeposit in order for it to be creditable for the computation portion. potentially creditable military time. So employees may receive credit towards their civilian retirements with their military time. So this is where it's different for CSRS and FERS. For FERS, instead of that 7%, employees coming on board for the first time who have military deposits, the cost for their military deposit is 3% of their military base pay. For USERA, it's essentially similar. The calculation is performed under the USERA Act of 1994 and is based on the military earnings versus the civilian salary, whichever is less. Interest, this is the same. So interest is not applied if you pay the deposit within the first 3 years during that grace period. So for the grace period, it's similar to CSRS. It's the grace period for military service performed prior to your civil service is that first 3 years of once you come on board and you're first hired. For reservists or USERA rights, it's from the 3 years from the date of the return to duty. In order to receive credit for active duty military service, the deposit must be paid. It's not like CSRS. You do not receive credit if you do not pay it. The deposit is paid. FERS is considered a pay-to-play retirement system. In order for anything to be creditable for the money portion, you have to pay for it. And of course, once again, it must be paid in full prior to the effective date of separation to include retirement. Again, this slide does not apply to you if you are not choosing to make the military deposit. If you're a military retired person and you came back on board in FERS as a civilian, if you're not combining your military time with your civilian time, do not worry about this. If you are receiving military retired pay and you're combining your military time with your civilian time, with your active duty military retired, then you do have to waive the pay unless it was awarded on account of a service-connected disability, either incurred in combat with an enemy of the United States or caused by an instrumentality of war and incurred in the line of duty during a period of war. As stated before, that specific verbiage has to be on the retired orders or in the memorandum from your branch of service that you performed and were retired from. Otherwise, if you retired under the reserves, in the reserve side, and you're not receiving your retirement pay until age 60, then you do not have to waive it. If you earned enough active duty credits in the reserve side to receive a full regular active duty retirement, you will be required to waive it upon when you retire from your civilian position. And of course, the military deposit must be paid in full prior to the retirement effective date. The sooner you pay it, the less interest you pay on your military retirement, or the less interest you pay on your military deposit. And then you can always choose to take the refund at the time of retirement. So for FERS, the minimum retirement age is different. We will go over what the actual minimum retirement age is on the next slide, because it is based on your year of birth. For most FERS, it's 55 through 57. Everybody coming on board now, it's going to be 57 or older. Right now it's still 57, but I'm pretty sure as more and more people enter the workforce, I'm sure as more and more people enter the workforce, they will probably continue to increase that minimum retirement age. So right now for a FERS regular retirement, it is minimum retirement age with 30 years of service or more, 60 with 20 years of service, 62 with 5 years of service. And here's a change that's different from CSRS. For FERS, you can also retire at your minimum retirement age with just 10 years of service if you're willing to accept an early retirement penalty. Again, with the special retirements on the right-hand side, the early retirement, DSR, and special retirement, does fall for air traffic controllers, firefighters, and law enforcement officers, as well as military reserve technicians. For early retirements, we do not offer that at the Department of the Air Force. That is offered at the base level. It's usually in coordination with base reduction in force or base closures. That's not something that's usually offered. Special retirements, if you're in the special retirement system, generally Deferred retirements. So you can choose as a FERS employee additional deferred retirement time frame. So at CSRS, it was just 62 years old. Well, with FERS, you can do a deferred retirement after minimum retirement age if you have at least 10 years of service. So, but that again is if you did 10 years of service and then you separate from Department of the Air Force or federal civilian service. When you go to apply, there is nothing that the Department of the Air Force is going to do for you. You apply directly to OPM at your minimum retirement age. Say you retire at 50 and your minimum retirement age is 57, you apply directly to OPM. Same thing with 60 and 20. So if you separated but you had 20 years of service and you reach age 60, you can apply directly to OPM. If you do the MRA, you still should receive the early retirement penalty. If you have 20 years and you wait until age 60, you can apply directly to OPM and not receive the early retirement penalty. Same thing with 62 years old. If you have 5 years, you have to have at least 5 years in order to retire. There's no getting around the 5 years, and it has to be at least 5 years of civilian service. It cannot be combined military and civilian service. So no matter what, you have to have at least 5 years of credible civilian service, not combining anything else to be able to retire. So if you have at least 5 years and you reach age 62 and you separated earlier, you did not take a refund of those retirement contributions, you're eligible to retire to apply for retirement directly to OPM and receive retirement after that. So this is what I was talking about for the year of birth. For your minimum retirement age, it's pretty much anywhere between 55 and 57. It is important for you to know, obviously for your year of birth, what your actual minimum retirement age is. There's a lot of people that fall between that 1953 to 1964 time frame and are straight 56, but then you have everybody after that for 1965, 56 years and 2 months. Your MRA is not 56, it's 56 years and 2 months. 1966, 56 years and 4 months. 1967, 56 years and 6 months. So it just keeps going up and up. So for the FERS annuity computation, it is different than the CSRS one. Your basic annuity is based on your length of service, times your high 3 salary, including your locality pay, and that 1%. So it's you can see the FERS annuity formula right down here. It's 1% times your high 3, and we talked about high 3 earlier. It's weighted pay times your number of years of service. You may receive credit for the length of service for unused sick leave if you're retiring on an immediate annuity, but just like we said before, it's not used to meet retirement eligibility. So when we talk about minimum retirement age and 30, you cannot use that sick leave to meet your 30 years. It's the same for MRA plus 10. If you're trying to get out and you're at 9 years and you're like, man, I got all the sick leave, I got about a year's worth of sick leave, I can retire now. No, that's not how that works. You have to have your 10 years in credible federal civilian service time, and then the sick leave is only used to enhance it. There is a permanent reduction for an MRA plus 10 type retirement. It's 5% for every year under the age of 62 that you retire. And you cannot receive the FERS annuity supplement, which we will talk about on the next slide, or not the next slide, we'll talk about in a couple of slides. But as an MRA plus 10, you could potentially, it's just something to consider when you're doing financial planning for retirement, if you can even afford to do that, because not only would you not receive the FERS annuity supplement, that 5% for every year under the age of 62 could be up to 30% of your retirement pay. So, I mean, that's a large chunk of money, and that can be devastating financially for some people for their families when they're trying to plan for retirement. So it's just something to consider. And you can also postpone that minimum, if your minimum retirement age plus 10 eligible, where you could retire immediately, but you don't want to take that 30% reduction for early retirement age, you could postpone that and wait until you reach age 62 and apply directly to OPM, and that would allow you to not receive that early retirement penalty by postponing your retirement. So this is pretty much the exact same slide from the CSRS portion of the briefing, because we do this the exact same way for FERS as we do for CSRS. Your high 3 average salary is called time weighted. It's your actual pay earned from start to end date for the highest 3 consecutive years of your salary. And then we take the actual pay earned for that biweekly tour of duty of 80 hours, and we add all that up, divide it by 3, and that's how we get your actual high 3 average salary. We use your SF50s. We do not have access to your individual retirement records. OPM uses that, and they're provided by DFAS. So I'm going to go over that one a little bit more quickly because we've already covered it once. Okay, so for the FERS annuity supplement, all FERS employees, part of your annuity is from Social Security. Well, if you retire at age 50, 55 or 57, because you had 30 or more years of civil service, or you wait until you're age 60, and so you can have over 20 years of service or 20 or more years of service, then you should be eligible, or you are eligible for the FERS annuity supplement. Employees who receive voluntary early retirement are eligible only after they reach their early retirement, their minimum retirement age. So if you were offered a voluntary early retirement by your base and you're age 50, you have to wait until you're age 57 in order to get that annuity supplement if you're eligible. DSR employees, so discontinued service retirement is specific retirement to military reserve technicians that are hired after February 10th, 1996. The military reserve technicians have to have at least 20 years of straight military reserve technician service as a civilian. It's a dual appointment, so it's military reserve and civilian, in order to receive the FERS annuity supplement immediately. Otherwise, they're eligible once they meet their minimum retirement age again. So generally, DSRs are eligible to retire with the same provisions as special retirements, 25 years at any age or 20 years at 50. But if they don't have 20 years of straight service, they have to wait to their minimum retirement age in order to receive the FERS annuity supplement. The FERS annuity supplement substitutes what you would receive from Social Security until you reach, it's that part of your retirement until you reach age 62. So it approximates the Social Security benefit earned while you worked under the FERS, covered a position only. If you worked outside of the federal civilian service, we are not going to calculate in that annuity supplement any external positions, including your military time. If you did 20 years in military and you did 20 years of civilian service and you're retiring at age 60 with 20 years of civilian service, your military service, even if you combined it, that's not going to be calculated or used to approximate your annuity supplement for your FERS retirement. It is subject to the earnings test. You can receive the supplement if you have worked under FERS for at least 1 calendar year and you retire on an immediate non-disability annuity other than an MRA plus 10. You are not eligible for the annuity supplement if you do an MRA plus 10. So it's only for those that are MRA plus 30, minimum retirement age plus 30 years of service, 60 years old with 20 years of service, or 62 with 5 years of service. Or I apologize, not 62, because at age 62 you become eligible for Social Security and you're ineligible for the annuity supplement after that, because you're eligible to go ahead and start withdrawing your Social Security. It is not subject to the cost of living adjustments, and it is subject to the Social Security earnings test. That's the Social Security earnings test for year 2021. Survivor annuity. Survivor annuity for FERS employees is different, slightly different than for CSRS. For full survivor annuity for a FERS employee, it's going to be only 50%. So full survivor annuity for FERS employees is going to leave your spouse with 50% of your annuity, and it's going to come at a cost to you of 10% of your annual annuity. partial survivor annuity for your spouse is not the 55% of the dollar amount the way it was for CSRS. It's 25%. So it's going to be 25% of your annual annuity, and it's going to come at a cost to you of 5% of your annual annuity. And then there's, of course, no survivor annuity, which if something happens to you, your spouse gets nothing and they lose their health insurance if you're the health insurance provider. So for this example, you can see that this employee is earning $21,454 a year, and then you're going to times that by 0.1, so that 10%, and the annual cost to that employee for their survivor annuity is going to be $2,145.40 a year. And then the monthly annuity the monthly cost is going to be $178.78 out of their retirement deductions. And then that would allow their spouse to receive 50% of that $21,000 if something happens to them. Again, survivor election is made at the time of retirement. If you're not married and there's no survivor benefit or less than full is elected, if you're married and you elect no survivor benefit or less than full, your spouse is required to sign that notarized agreement. If there is no survivor annuity left to your spouse and something happens to you, your spouse will lose health insurance if something should happen to you. If you're divorced, OPM does the survivor benefits in accordance with the divorce decree. And if you remarried after retirement, or if you weren't married going into retirement and marry after retirement, you have 2 years to elect a survivor benefit, and premiums must be back paid to the start of the retirement effective date. There has to at least be a partial survivor annuity elected in order for the spouse to be able to continue health insurance should something happen to you. Okay, so for FERS annuity reductions and withholdings, it's similar to CSRS. One of the reductions potentially, if you're retiring as an MRA plus 10, that could potentially be up to 30% of your annuity computation if you retire at the earliest possible time, which is age 56 or 55. Unpaid deposit service for service performed prior to January 1st, 1989. If you do not pay for this service, it's not creditable for time or for computation. Redeposit service, if you took a refund, it's always creditable for time, but it's not creditable for computation if you did not make a payment on that, and that will be that will obviously make your computation that much less. If your survivor benefit is elected, it's also going to reduce your annuity by that 10% or 5% or whatever you chose for your survivor annuity election. Unpaid military service deposits are not creditable for computation or for time under FERS. You must make the payment in order for you to receive credit for any of it. FERS is a pay-to-play system, so those service credits got to be paid in order for them to be creditable for time or computation. The only one that's an exception is the redeposit. It's always creditable for time, but not for computation. So withholdings from your annuity, potentially federal income taxes, that's automatic. The W-4P, you're going to want to submit that form, or OPM's going to automatically withhold at the rate of married with claiming 3 dependents. State income taxes, they are not automatic. OPM has agreements with some states to allow the withholding of state income taxes from your annuity. You will need to coordinate directly with OPM after retirement in order for you to request your state income tax, to see if your state is one of the ones that has an agreement with OPM and request your income taxes, state income taxes, to be withheld from your retirement annuity. Same health insurance premiums, life insurance premiums are the same as an active employee, but they go from biweekly to monthly basis. Okay, we just covered the FERS annuity section, and we're going to keep going. Okay, so for the Federal Employees Health Benefits, the Federal Employees Health Benefits Program is a voluntary program that is intended to assist employees and their eligible family members with health insurance through expenses of illness, accident, paid through employer contributions. Enrollment opportunities, if you would like to enroll in health benefits, generally as a new employee, you can enroll within the first 60 days of hire or being rehired or after a break in service or after experiencing a qualifying life event. There is also an annual open season for health benefits, health insurance. It's generally the second Monday in November. They're the second Monday in December. It is a whole month long every year. The government pays 2/3 of the premiums. Part-time employees are prorated. And then you pay your share of the premiums. Employees, you can elect to cover yourself, and your family, or yourself plus one. Most employees, especially if you enroll during open season, you're covered by pre-tax benefit by participating in premium conversion, which means your premiums are actually paid with pre-tax dollars, and they're bringing down your overall taxable income. Participation in FEHB meets all the requirements for the Affordable Care Act, Public Law 148, and the minimum essential coverage requirement. In order to take health insurance into retirement, you must have been enrolled and had continuous coverage for the 5 years immediately preceding retirement and have no break in coverage. TRICARE does count if you are military service and you want the FEHB, if you want the health insurance or civilian side. TRICARE does count to get you to meet those 5-year requirements, but you have to still be enrolled in the Federal Employees Health Insurance Program through some provider in order to take it into retirement, and you have to submit your TRICARE letter with your retirement if you want to do that. If you separate, there is a temporary continuation of coverage available for separating employees and dependents. For employees, it provides you with coverage for up to 18 months, and for dependents, it provides your dependents with coverage for up to 36 months. Okay. Life insurance. So the Federal Employees Group Life Insurance Program covers all of our Department of the Air Force employees. It says over 4 million federal employees and retirees, as well as their family members. And it is voluntary. You can elect to waive your life insurance, cancel or reduce it at any time, but you cannot increase it without either one, it being an open season, you being a new employee, or 3, you requesting an increase in your life insurance coverage through a standard form 2822 and actually going to the doctor on your own. So the types of coverage provided by life insurance is basic. Basic is your base annual salary rounded up to the next $1,000, and then you add an additional $2,000 to that, and that's your basic coverage. Almost all employees, actually all employees are enrolled in basic. Almost all employees have basic at least, and you would have to actively waive your your life insurance in order to not have basic coverage. So if you onboarded and you're like, I never enrolled in life insurance, I don't have it. If you also never waived it, you probably still have that basic coverage. Most employees have basic, and some don't even know they have basic life insurance. Option A, that is an additional $10,000. That's just a straight flat $10,000 of coverage. Option B is your base salary rounded up to the next $1,000, and you can elect up to 5 multiples of option B. Option C is family coverage, and you can elect up to 5 multiples of option C. For your spouse, it covers each multiple is $5,000. For your child, each multiple is $2,500. So for your spouse, you could potentially have up to 5 multiples, which is a total of $25,000, and your children is $12,500. And for option B, just to be clear, it's your base salary rounded up to the next 1,000, and you can times it up to 5. 5 is the max number of multiples for option B. So like I said, new employees are automatically enrolled in basic. You would have had to actively waive that coverage in order to not have it. Optional insurance coverage, usually it has to be elected within 60 days. If you, of being new hired, rehired, or having a qualifying life experience. If you are not able, or for some reason you were not able to enroll within that 60 days, you can get the standard form 2822, You will need to schedule an appointment with your physician or your doctor, get a physician's exam, a medical exam, and then you fill out your portion. The doctor fills out their portion, and they send that to OFEGLI if you want additional coverage. OFEGLI is the only agency that can approve or deny your coverage. When they make a decision, it is final. You can contact OFEGLI afterwards to request or to communicate as to why your coverage was approved, or most people don't ask why it was approved, why it was denied, but that is between you and OFEGLI. We have no authority over that. Open season for life insurance is kind of few and far between. It's very sporadic. The last open season was September 2016. That coverage did not become effective until October 2017. If you're looking to retire and you elected a higher coverage in September 2016 with that last open season, that coverage will not, because it did not become effective until October 1st, 2017, in order to take that higher coverage with you into retirement, you will have to wait until October 1st, 2022 in order to do so, to retire with that coverage. And before the September 2016 open season, the last open season was 2004. They're very sporadic. We never really know when they're going to happen. So the only other way to get it outside of being newly hired or qualifying life experience or a qualifying life event is through the standard form 2822. Okay, now we're going to discuss the thrift savings plan. It's a voluntary tax deferred retirement savings and investment plan for employees and members of the uniformed services. So recently, TSP has changed how they do it. The elective, it used to be called catch-up contributions. Now the elective deferral limit has been changed for employees age 50 or turning 50 and older. It's now called spillover. Essentially, if you are age 50 or older or turning age 50 and older, you can now, your elective deferral limit has been increased. It's now $26,000. The elective deferral limit for those of us that are age 49 years and younger, it is $19,500. If you are turning age 50 this year, you're still 49, you can increase your elective deferral limit. If you have extra money to put into your TSP, you can increase it from the $19,500 up to the $26,000, and it just spills over. It's a similar type of savings account that has the same similar type tax benefits as the 401k. There is an automatic 1% of agency matching contributions or agency contributions, and up to a 4% of agency matching contributions for FERS employees. CSRS employees are eligible to contribute to the TSP account. There's just they don't receive agency matching. Elections can be made at any time. There's no open season with TSP because you can go into GRV at any time and make an election. The traditional TSP is a pre-taxed account. Taxes are applied when you go to withdraw your money. Roth TSP is an after-tax account versus at the time of withdrawal. Employees can contribute both to the Roth and traditional TSP at the same time. The elective deferral limit does cover the entire combined contributions to both accounts. So if you're contributing to both, you can only contribute up to that $26,000 to both accounts. If you have more, like if you have a military account and a civilian account, it's $26,000 for the whole year. It doesn't matter if you have multiple accounts. That's it. That's the max for all of it. So this final portion, it's not really the final portion of our briefing, but this is going to cover just some general information and benefits reminders when going into retirement. So we talk about this mainly because of the questions we have for death in service versus, survivor annuity benefits. For CSRS, in order for your spouse to have something or receive something from you from the Department of the Air Force for survivor annuity, you have to have at least 18 months of creditable civilian service, and it's equal to 55% of your pay of your high three. That is if there's a death in service, they receive a monthly annuity. For FERS survivors, it's a lot different. For FERS employees, in order for your spouse to have a survivor annuity, you have to have at least 10 years of creditable civilian service. 5 of those years is civilian service, and then it can be a combined 10 years of credible civilian service. 18 months, or not 5 years, I apologize. It's 18 months must be actual civilian service, and then it can be a combination of military and civilian service. It's equal to 50% of your high 3 pay, and it's there's also a one-time survivor benefit called the it's BEDB. I forget the actual acronym name, but basically it's a payout. It's a lump sum payment of approximately half of your annual salary, and then they also receive the monthly annuity payment. For both CSRS and FERS, the surviving spouse, in order for them to be eligible, you must have been married at least 9 months or have to have been a parent of a child by the marriage. The only time that's waived is in case of accidental death. Unmarried dependent children are covered up to age 18, and only at 22 if they are full-time college students or incapable of self-support by the age of 18. But they have to be have developed the condition prior to reaching the age of 18. OPM recognizes common law marriages in accordance with state laws. Lump sum payments is made if there is no eligible spouse, child, or former spouse. If the former spouse is entitled to survivor benefits in whole or part, provided in a qualified court order filed with OPM, then they will receive whatever OPM is going to issue in accordance with the court order. Other benefits are receivable according to the beneficiary form. So for life insurance, the FERS, if there's anything left or you have unpaid compensation or TSP, there's beneficiary forms for each agency. For us, the standard form 2823 is the life insurance form. For CSRS, the standard form 2803, I believe, or, oh my heavens, I forgot it. I need to look it up real quick. It's going to be the standard form 2801, I believe. Maybe it's the 2803. And then for FERS, it's the standard form 3102. So I do apologize. I will look that one up. It's been a little bit since I've seen that form. Okay, and then then there they are, and here I am, 2808. I was wrong. So beneficiary forms for your FERS is 3102, CSRS is 2808, life insurance is the 2823, unpaid compensation of deceased civilian employees, that one goes directed to OPM, and that's the standard form 1152. And of course, you've got your TSP form, the TSP3, that goes to TSP. If there are no beneficiary forms on file, benefits are paid in the order of precedence. So to your spouse first, then to your children. If you're not married and you have no children, then it's go to your parents or surviving relatives, and then parents, and then the duly appointed administrator or executor of state. And then if there's none of that, then it goes to the next of kin under the laws. So beneficiary form, it is one of those special forms that has to be completed error-free. There cannot be any whiteouts. There cannot be any cross-outs, line-throughs, initialing, oh, I did this wrong. It has to be completed the first time error-free. It's one of those forms that also cannot be completed using the electronic signature. So you can complete everything, typing it in, but then when you print it out, it has to have an original handwritten wet ink signature and dated, and of course it has to be witnessed by two other people. Those two people who witness the form cannot be listed as beneficiaries. The form also must equal the total of 100%. So if your wife is getting 100%, then it has to say wife, otherwise to, if living, and then otherwise to David Smith. If this is a son, then 100%. If you want it split equally between your spouse and maybe you have one child, so son on this case, then you would put Jane Smith and then wife relationship, and then the percentage, if it's split equally, would be 50%, and then David Smith, son, 50%, and that equals 100% at the bottom. So that's how that works. We do recommend that employees request a retirement estimate if you are intending to retire in the next 5 years. We will not prepare a retirement estimate for anything outside of 8 years in advance of the retirement effective date. One of the reasons for that is we cannot project any pay increases you're going to have, and it's really not effective to do it that far out. So if you're planning to retire in May of 2029, you can open that ticket, but it's not going to be worked. It's just going to be closed out and explained why. It's outside of our 8-year time frame. But if you're planning to retire in at least 5 years, definitely go ahead and get a retirement estimate. You can request an estimate through GRB. If you have Pure Service, you can view your own estimate in GRB. I've done it a lot, even though I'm not near retirement age yet. I still am just curious, so I'm just looking, and I do my own estimate. Of course, it's not correct because I have military time. I'm not Pure Service. I have a break-in service as well. I'm a military spouse. Funny enough, we were stationed at Spangdahlem before coming back stateside. So I worked as a federal civilian in Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. And then we got stationed in Spangdahlem, and I was a military spouse there, stay-at-home mom. And then we came back stateside, and we came here to San Antonio, and that's when I came back into service. So that's my break in service, was at Spangdahlem. So if you have non-pure service, NAP service, who's that Miss Alexandra Hatcher, you're going to want to get an estimate done. Part-time service, temporary service, unpaid military deposits, any kind of breaks in service, leave without pay. If they're in excess of 6 months per calendar year, you're going to want to request an estimate. Best, we will prepare one estimate for each employee once every 4 years. If you just had an estimate done and then you paid your military deposit time and you want to see what the difference is going to be, generally, if you didn't pay that military deposit time, you were provided with 2 estimates anyway. One showing the military deposit not being paid and one showing the military deposit being paid. So you're not going to get a new estimate accomplished just because you paid your military deposit. Like it says, you can request the estimate by accessing the GRB platform. You go to the menu and then select New Request. Requests for counselors are prepared or can take up to 6 to 8 months. Y'all can still hear me, correct? You put yes in the chat?
Yes,
okay,
we can.
It looks like
we can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not happening again. I heard something, so. Okay. So estimates, they do take a lengthy amount of time. They can take up to 6 months to complete. So if you're planning on retiring and you want a retirement estimate, hopefully you're not retiring for at least a year, because what's going to happen is if you have that retirement estimate request in there and then we receive your retirement application and that estimate request has not been worked, it's not going to be worked. They're going to close that out and tell you you'll receive your estimate with your retirement. I do recommend every employee get, at the very least, a certified summary. So if you don't get a retirement estimate, get a certified summary accomplished. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put the link for my FERS for certified summaries in the chat. And because at the very least, so what our counselors do every time we process any request for anything, it can be military deposit request, civilian deposit, refund of service, we generally look through all of your personnel records. We ensure your records are complete and correct, and then we process your request. When we're doing that, we're identifying any errors. If you've had any errors whatsoever, that is the best way by requesting a certified summary to get them identified and get them corrected. And then if you get a certified summary done, that certified summary is the only way for us to verify your retirement STD. Your retirement STD can be one thing on your civilian retirement board, and for us, if you have uncredited service or potentially creditable service, getting a certified summary done will identify that potentially creditable service and will also allow us to assist you with possibly doing civilian deposit, redeposit, military buyback, getting some counseling, requesting an actual retirement and benefits counselor to, call you and assist you with doing anything that can help you with your retirement. Okay, so that's the knowledge article. For our knowledge articles, if you go to MyPERS and you type in the number 41016, that will take you straight to the knowledge article homepage, and then you can do your request there. The overarching page for retirements, and I'm going to put the link in there, is the Article 712. You will not be able to find that if you put that in the link, but if you go straight to log into MyPERS and go to retirement on the left-hand side, you'll see all of our options for the retirements. Okay, so estimates are for planning purposes. We do not do like down to the penny type estimates. They are just estimates. We don't do what OPM is going to do when they do final adjudication of retirement packets. They're going to account for every within grade increase, every promotion, every general pay adjustment, every reassignment, every time your money changed, anytime your annual salary changed, they're going to account for that. Or if you're a wage grade employee, anytime your hourly rate changed. We just do the general adjustment every year, and that's about it. We do your high three. So we're not accounting for all of that, every pay change that you've ever had. Retirement STD dates, they are fluid. They are subject to change. We've already gone over all of that. If you have non-pure service, which is you just came on board and been working ever since, full-time, if you don't have pure service, or if you have part-time service or leave without pay or any unpaid deposits of any kind, request a retirement. I would absolutely request a retirement estimate, especially if you're getting closer and closer to retirement. It assists with financial planning. It also provides you with a certified summary. Here's some benefits reminders. So this is on you. As an employee, you will have your own set of responsibilities. You definitely need to review your leave and earnings statement each pay period to ensure that the benefits that you have and the premiums that are correlated to those benefits are being taken out correctly. If there are errors and you did not try to come to us within the first 60 days of the identified error, DFAS may or may not approve or deny the debt. If a debt starts to accrue, it's going to be your responsibility to pay that, because DFAS has to see that you actively engaged with payroll office or with Department of the Air Force, AFPC, to have that debt or have that error corrected as soon as possible. Also need to review your personnel records regularly. There's usually I get it every year on my birthday. There's a MyPERS message sent to each employee to your work inbox, so don't put those MyPERS messages to the automatic delete folder or straight into the trash. They're actually sent out to you all for to give you good reminders to identify any errors or ensure your records are complete and correct. Just review your stuff and, yes, this looks correct to me. You can also review and update your official records in MyBiz, and that's through there's a MyPERS link for the MyBiz. That's through DCPDS is MyBiz. Submit certain personnel action requests and accomplish personnel data updates through MyPERS. There's a whole self-service article through MyPERS, and that's the link for that one. I just recently ensured all of my transcripts for all my education was updated through self-service. MyPERS is the total force, make your first stop all personnel. That's just the generic MyPERS login. And then GRB, you do all your benefits transactions and not retirement application, but retirement forms. You can do that through the GRB. We have access to the slide deck. Yes, I sent all of our slides to Ms. Doonser, not just mine. Some good information for y'all that is not covered in this slide right now, but I really feel like it's necessary for you to have it. So you know how I just put in the knowledge article number for the certified summary? There is a new retirement process for retirement. So I'm going to put the knowledge article in there for FERS, and there's also for FERS. I'll put it in there for FERS first because I know it off the top of my head, 23388, knowledge article 23388. Okay, that is the retirement application process for submitting retirements. That is a new internal process for completing and submitting your retirement application. We are now not accepting retirement applications in excess of 6 months in advance of the retirement effective date. and we require that you initiate your request for personnel action prior to submitting your retirement application. And that is all covered in that article. There is also the CSRS knowledge article that has the retirement application submission in there as well. And you see Ms. Junser put in there that the slides and recordings will be uploaded to the CDF SharePoint in the next few days. And I will do the application for CSRS knowledge article just in 1 second. And then, of course, I would go to my FERS, play around in the retirement forms that I just sent you. There's required retirement forms for completing your application. And then GRB also has, it's the same knowledge article for CSRS as it is for FERS. So 23388. All right. So with that, there's also very helpful videos and articles and stuff in the GRB platform. It's in the resources link in GRB under the retirement tile. So we're providing a lot of information in this one article, 23388. It's the same article for both CSRS and FERS covered employees for retirement application. In the article itself, there is a link that says reference the electronic retirement submission instructions. If you click on that link, that is a PDF that you can download that will help you when completing your retirement application and signing it electronically with the Common Access card. This is the first time we've ever been allowed to sign retirement applications with a Common Access card using the electronic digital certificates, and it's mostly because of the coronavirus that we've been allowed to do this by OPM. So we are taking full advantage of this pandemic and signing and submitting our retirement applications electronically and submitting them through MyPERS. So once you initiate that request for personnel action, you do that through your supervisor, and the base level local civilian personnel section creates the RPA. It gets sent to BEST. When BEST receives it in our inbox, in our RPA inbox, then we send you a message through MyPERS. You can complete your retirement application, download it, sign it digitally with your Common Access card, and submit it through MyPERS. All right, let me see. I think that's the last slide.
That's it. We're gonna let you all go and enjoy the rest of your Air Force Day. And again, thank you, Ms. Stewart, for coming on this afternoon.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. Y'all have a great day.